Hello again. Okay, so podcast number 7, I believe. This is the sixth modality that I offer. And I actually haven't given it a name, but I just, in my heart of hearts, this is healing with horses. This is connecting with the equines. This is equine facilitation. This is just animal communication. This is using the horses to heal. This is going out and using the horses to heal. And I don't mean using in a bad way. I mean, the horses are the therapist. They are therapy. They are healers in their own right. They are divine and they are spiritual beings that bring us like these divine messages and just this immaculate spiritual connection, and they offer us so much if we're willing, right, to become aware and to see and to do the work. So what do I know? What can I tell you about healing with the horses? Well, I feel like there's so much, and there's so much that needs to come out and still needs to come out. And again, as I mentioned in a previous podcast, I am in the middle of creating my equine facilitation course and a bunch of other stuff around this. But I do offer, and I do way more sessions for myself than for others so far. This is one of my newest modalities, mediumship being the second to newest. In the way of, my journey and how it unfolded and what I started to offer and really bring into the space. So I'll just continue down through that story because, as I mentioned, I do most of the healing on myself through the horses. But I have to say that, I have to say so much stuff about it all. First things first, I have to say that the sessions that I do with others, I mean, mine are pretty fucking spectacular. I cannot say enough about them. But I still feel like we're still doing the work and we're still in the trenches. But when I watch it happen with others, and it's not about me, and that's, so when I can be the facilitator, when I can be the role of, because also these are my horses, this is my herd, right? And they live on our land, and they just kind of are in relationship to us and the farm and what's going on here. And so it's kind of what I notice in the everyday of them is them just reacting and responding to us in the everyday and to themselves, to their own herd, to any changes or differences in the herd or in the environment or whatever. And so it's just kind of the day-to-day stuff that you just kind of keep being aware of, and you keep stepping into, and you keep, you just keep doing it, and you keep digging into the awarenesses and digging in and just keep communicating with them and speaking with them and moving forward. But when I watch someone else come into the herd, it's like they change because the energy has changed. The situation has changed, and they are now responding and reacting to the new person that's come into the space. So I have brought family, I've brought friends, I've brought clients. And when we walk into the space with the intention, but even still, with just even the intention to pet them or something like that. But I always say, people always say, oh, you have horses, can I just go for a ride? These aren't really rides. I don't do trail rides, and I don't do all that stuff. And I'm not a petting zoo kind of thing, right? But I mean, obviously family, friends, they come over, and the horses still need to be loved on. So there's space for that. But just for anyone else in the way of when they come over to do a session and set the intention to go out to the horse herd and do the healing and do the transformation and receive the messages and receive the communication from the horses, the story they start to tell is different. The connection that they start to get is divine to the person who I'm bringing out there. And it's so in tune and connected to that intention, to that session. When I even when I do it distance, I'll be the one going into the herd. I will have my phone or my camera or something like that, and I will be taking pictures or video or just even typing messages, or or audio recording messages, and the horses will speak to me in a different way, and they will show up in a different way, and they will just start to be in a different way because they're showing up for the other person, which I think is absolutely fucking beautiful. Like it's just so divinely connected. It's just so on the spot of the messages are so different than the ones I would be receiving on the day-to-day. They are messages for the other person, and they're catered to the other person because we set the intention of opening up the space and the question or whatever healing that wants to come through at the time. Right? Okay, so I do most of this stuff for myself. So let me jump into my own journey. As I mentioned, when I first started, I created Soul to Soul Healing. I was taking riding lessons. I was going to be a coach, like a riding instructor. And I started into my own healing journey. So like I was, at the beginning doing Reiki and doing body talk and doing sessions for myself, hypnotherapy, massage, all the things, reflexology, anything I could get my hands on, really anything that popped up. I was reading book after book, watching audio or video after audio or video on the internet, watching, reading blogs, watching videos like people's little vlogs, video blogs, and just listening and just taking it all in and just doing my own work. And I just thought, this is freaking amazing. Like it's amazing. And I said, I want to do this work with horses. So at the beginning, I started to connect with the horses using like the Reiki, the body talk, the energy healing. And then I even went into equine rehabilitation, and they spoke about, like we spoke about in the class, and I learned more about like doing the energy and digging a little bit deeper into that. But it was still about healing the horse. Like I stepped into the space of healing humans, healing myself, and then I was stepping into the space of healing horses, moving through and feeling the horses, the energy, like that the horses. So if they had something up with their hip, if they had something up with their neck, and just doing like a Reiki session on them or just doing a healing session on them, and just moving it out and moving it through. And I thought, this still isn't it. Like this still isn't what I intended to do. There's got to be another thing out there. There's got to be another way. And so I kept looking, and I kept just, being patient and asking and Googling and just allowing universe to bring to me whoever was guided to bring to me at the proper time. And so I just kept going through my journey. And as I mentioned, in 2018, I stumbled across or found the teacher who was going to teach me how to do this. And she definitely has her own brilliant way of doing things. And she definitely stepped into it in her very own way, because she's taken trainings, which I was looking into. And because she's had some of these trainings or whatever, like there might have been some resonance there, but she's taken them and made them her own. And I thought, that's fucking brilliant. And so I'm just like, not only did the not, like actually just doing like they actually have, and I don't remember what it's called now, but like equine therapy or something like that, where they actually have therapists and horses, and you do therapy with horses. And I was looking and Googling about that and trying to understand what all was a part of that, and how I could get into like therapy with horses, doing this, helping people, healing people with horses. But the therapy didn't bring in any of the energy work. And so I bought a bunch of books, and I did a bunch of, again, reading and talking and asking questions and messaging people and all that stuff. And the lady who eventually I found and resonated with, like I said, she went through some of these practices, and it wasn't quite what she was looking for either. So she kind of shifted it to make it her own. And she pulled in what she knew from other courses and she made it her own. And I thought, that's friggin' spectacular. So I went to her place and we did a full year-long course on how to, it was called Horse Medicine Facilitation by Hilary Schneider. And she's out in BC, and it was beautiful teachings. But even when I was sitting there, I'm just like, this is exactly what I need and more, right? I did the same thing. This is exactly what I need and more. And so I brought everything that I know so far, and I'm just swirling her teachings, or I should say what I've taken out of her teachings, what has really resonated with me in the way of being with the horses and sitting with the horses and communicating with the horses and healing with the horses and receiving the messages and being guided by the horses and all of that wisdom that came with her course and the horses. And it's that, and I put my own spin on it, right? It's that and more. So it's everything that I am created into what I'm meant to bring here to earth or to this world for my clients and my people and my group. So with my own experiences, I jumped into her course and we did a full year-long immersion. And I went out to the horses, and as I mentioned, like I did the history book, nothing to do with this, but there just seemed to be this break. Like that seemed to be like the end of one phase, and then this new phase started to emerge, right? So that was the end of that. And then I jumped into the mediumship, jumped into the yoga teacher training, and then I stepped into Hilary's horse medicine training facilitation. And I began to see and understand and use the horses in this line of work. And so I did it for myself first, and I'm still doing it for myself first. But as I mentioned yesterday, so I do believe this is not part 2 of the mediumship, but it is part 2 of the conversation. So as I started to bring in the horses yesterday, I may dive back and forth between the mediumship today, because this was like the second leg of my journey. I don't know how else to say it. It's that this became my chance to understand empathy, to understand how sensitive I am, to understand a big thing that came up was boundaries. And I can't say I fought it, but I'm going to say it like this. I fucking fought hard. I fought hard against boundaries, and I still do, and I still am. And I'm not saying boundaries is not a thing. What I'm saying is I see boundaries different than other people, which is going to be a whole other conversation. Boundaries to me are spaces where you do the work. You do the work. You change your energy pattern, and then your energy pattern says, I don't do it like that anymore. Okay, does that make sense? So anywhere that you would like to set a boundary where you haven't set a boundary previous, it's because you didn't know. That's it. It's because you didn't know. You thought that was just the way. And then, so where you do the healing, where you do the transformation, where you do the inner shift and the inner work, and then your energy says, we don't do it like that anymore. That's just not how it's done around here. That's just not the space I hold anymore. And it's just not a thing. It's just not a thing. And then from that place, from that space, we just say things, we just do things, we just act, and we just respond to people who, let's say, like, would still be treating us the same way, but we just say, no, thank you. And it is respected. It is respected, and it's heard, and that boundary is set in place because our energy has changed. And that's how I see boundaries. That is a whole other conversation. I shouldn't say that, because that actually, boundaries is a huge thing that came up in the horse healing. And leadership is another thing that she spoke a lot about. And so stepping into our leadership and finding that personal power. And I can't say I'm struggling with that, because it's also something that I've really, really, really stepped into. But at the same time, the third piece that I really, really, really stepped into that actually wasn't spoken about, that I had to kind of read between the lines, that I had to get messages from the horses, that I had to really interpret for myself and in my own space, is the sensitivity piece, is the empathy piece, is really learning how to be this sensitive. I don't know how else to say it. It's just like, I can just feel a lot. I can feel a lot, and I can be with a lot. And I have to understand that sometimes, like, when I'm bawling my face off in tears, with tears and tears and tears, they might not be mine. When I'm angry and acting out and lashing out, it might not be mine. When I am grieving and sad and just almost in this place of like depression, it might not be mine. When I am tired and I'm just bagged and exhausted, and I'm just like, well, I didn't really do anything to exhaust me this much, it might not be mine. Okay? So as I was explaining yesterday, we walk out into the herd of horses, or we allow the herd of horses to come to us, like whatever the space, kind of as it's created, whatever kind of happens in that space of setting the attention and moving through and really opening up the energy and opening up what we really want to come through. And then we just act and respond accordingly to what we feel is necessary in that time. And when we do that, when we open up this space, or when we take it out to the herd, or actually even watching my herd as the dynamics change in my home, as as I do space, land, and energy clearings, the horses shift. The horses shift as per the energy that is in their environment. And horses are super, super sensitive beings. I am a super, super sensitive being. So I act and respond and shift and move with the energy that's in my home and within my space and whoever is in connection with me. Because as I've probably mentioned, or should have mentioned, or will be mentioning now, I can do all of this stuff through distance. We don't have to be in person. I mean, it's beautiful to do it in person, and it's amazing, and I love the connections that happen in person, so I will always, always be open and available for that. But we don't have to do it in person. I could do this for someone around the globe. I can do this for someone in Europe. I can do this for someone over in Asia. I can do this for someone. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This works. And as if you've been in any part of energy healing before, you understand and you know that it works through distance. And so we can be connected through distance. So anyone whom I'm connected with through distance will also have that impact on me. Okay? So I also need to be well aware of the spaces that I hold, the places that I put myself in friendships that are through distance, or distance classes that I take, on online, that are like, as I offer, and as many people offer, right? The online courses, they're courses within our space, like their energy. We're allowing their energy to come into our space in the way of receiving their knowledge and receiving their essence of what they have created. So that sensitivity is a huge piece that's going to be a huge piece of what I teach with the horses. And it was a huge piece, even the other stuff, like even the Reiki, even the body talk, I started to really understand. And angels and Akashic and all the things that I've spoke about and so far, I really started to understand how sensitive I was. But again, at that point, I just thought that the better I do for myself, the more healing I do for myself, I was like unstoppable. I was like, no one can touch me now, right? Like their shit didn't affect me. And that's not true. We are all one, and we are all connected, and we are all affecting and impacting each other. So we do have to be quite aware of the energy that's in and around us, and what we participate in, and what we're holding, and who we're holding in our space. So the horses have taught me a lot about that. And honestly, I was not in BC. I was not with Hillary's herd at the time. But again, connected, right? The moment, okay, I will tell you, it was the moment or the day that I signed up for my advanced mediumship. And I sat there and I went, this isn't mine, is it? And the horses fucking rejoiced. They rejoiced. They were just like angels, like singing, like, hallelujah, like, she's got it, like, this isn't mine, and here's what to do about it. And so that is a huge piece. That is not even where I wanted to go with this today. So it was during the mediumship. It was during the horses, like the healing with the horses, my own stuff. It was going back, and I can't say like retelling my story, but digging into the pieces of my story that said, this wasn't mine. This came up. I can't, understand this. This has nothing to do with me. What's going on here? This wasn't the way that it used to be. And a story about that is, it was actually my horses. So like I was taking my coaching, and I was just like, okay, when I grew up, when I was taking my college, and I had my horse, and I was just like, yeah, giddy up, here we go. And I was just doing the things. And then as I grew and life went on, it was just like my horses started to respond to me differently. They started to just act differently and be different in my space. And I kept going like, what? But I kept, as I mentioned at the beginning, kept saying like, what do I have to change? But what do I have to change in the way of me, right? What's coming up for me? What do I have to move through? And I just kept going through a bunch of stuff. And it kept not working. And I'm just like, but this doesn't make sense. And it didn't make sense until the day that I sat down and frigging surrendered. Like there was no surrendering. and I went, this isn't mine, is it? This has nothing to do with me. This has nothing to do with me. And I think I needed to hear that today, even for myself. But because it's in my space, because I've created it in my life in the way of, I have allowed those people, those relationships, those spaces, I've allowed that. How am I going to change it? How am I going to look at it? How am I going to get the awareness to move through it or be with it or change it or transform it or work through it from this space of I can't dig any deeper into my stuff because it's not my stuff. I have to now find a different way to be with this. So yes, the notes I had written down here were horses are our mirrors, and that is exactly what I was explaining. So that's exactly how we look at life. So when we look at life, our life is our mirror. And that's how we find those places that need to be changed, right? What is it that we've created in our lives? What does our finances look like? What do our relationships look like? What do our home look like? What does our schooling look like? What do our kids, our families, what I think I said relationships, but that's relationships of all kinds. What do our work environments look like? What do our conversations look like? What does our energy look and feel like? What is going on in our lives? Energetically, physically, what do our bodies look like not like look like beautify, but what do they feel like, right? How are our bodies responding to our life? How do our emotions, how do they feel? Our thoughts, our beliefs, our patternings, and just mirroring it, and it mirrors back to us. So that's what the horses do. That's the first thing. So when I first bring horse or humans, or I go out, it's like, what are these horses mirroring to me? The second space that I go to is actually that connection and that communication with them. So this is where they become our healers. So when we open up our intuition, when we open up this space and we open up our intuition, and yes, they will start to act and behave. And so some of the things that we look for in with the horses and with the communication and the mirroring, I mean, they could do a number of things. And honestly, the same thing as with other readings or other spaces or whatever. Everything is something. So even if we get silence, even if we get absolutely nothing, the nothing is something. The nothing might be rest. The nothing might be silence. Like in the way of like getting silence, bringing silence into your life. The nothing might be peace. Everything is peaceful. What is the nothingness saying to you? So everything is something. So as I'm out there with the horses, it's kind of like, what are the horses showing to me? But it's like everything. Like, did a bird fly overhead? Did the horse twitch an ear? Did the horse swish its tail? Did the horse turn its butt to us? Did the horse walk away? Or did the horse come closer? Was the horse pushing me out of its space? Did the horse make any noise in the way of, did it yawn? Did it blow out? Did it chew? Like, is it chewing? Is it grazing? Is it like holding its leg up, like kind of how horses rest on their hind leg? Are they kind of switching back and forth like this? Is that, are they showing some kind of anxiety or some kind of patterning there? So everything is kind of something. And so we look for everything. But then like the physical being the first space of it, the next layer and space of it being actually like, what feelings are we feeling? What thoughts are we thinking? What messages are coming through? And what communication are we getting from this horse, right? So by opening up our intuition, we can really start to see and start to feel the intuitive space of it. So when we really open up the space and then open up your connection and open up your intuition and really start to be in the space of everything, that's when we can really start to communicate and really get the messages from the horses. I mean, it all starts the moment, honestly, that we set the intention. And then when we open up the space and we be with it, and we just be with it, messages will come through, thoughts will come through, tears will come through, emotions will come through. And they will lead us back to our souls, soul to soul connection, right? They will lead us back to the truth. A lot of people say, like, they'll lead us to the present moment, which they will. That's true. But the present moment needs to be the truth, the underlying truth, the underlying peace, the underlying beingness, it is a word, of everything. They need to lead us, or the space is open to the truth of everything underneath it. And I want to speak to this, or I want to say to this. It's never what you think it is. It's never what you think it is. Every single session that I go out there and I'm just like, this is what's coming up. And it might be like, let's say a business thing, or it might be a money thing, or it might be a relationship thing. I can't get along with my best friend. What are my kids like? Why are my kids acting up? I can't seem to make a connection with my boss at work. I can't seem to make a decision. And then we go out into the space. And honestly, it has nothing to do with the relationship. It has nothing to do with the decision. It has nothing to do with your kids. It has nothing to do with your finances. It has nothing to do with any of it. Usually, but it's like, it will lead you back to that. It will lead you back to that. But there's usually something, like, it's never what you think it is. There's usually something underlying everything else that you're just like, whew, if I just get rid of that. And that happens in the space. That happens in the space where it's just like, if I just let that go, if I just get rid of that, if I just be with that, if I just accept that, if I just forgive that, if I just let that go, what would this look like? What would it be like? How would my finances be different? How would my relationships be different? How would my kids be different? How would my job be different? How would my home be different? How would my body be different? All of it. How would it be different if I could just be with that differently, whatever it is that comes up in the space? And it's never what we think it is. Okay. So that is my piece. That is my piece around boundaries. That's my piece around sensitivity. That's my piece around horses, communication, intuition. That's my piece around how life mirrors back to us. That's my piece around how we respond and react to the environment that we are in. But knowing that and taking responsibility for, we chose that environment. We chose that relationship. We chose that job. We chose that home. We chose, you know what I mean? Like, so we chose it, even though it's not ours, even though we're responding to it. So I just want to give you this food for thought. Even though, sorry, let me start again. The way that I explained that our life is our mirror. People are responding to us. Life is responding to us. The energy is responding to us. What horse we chose to bring into our lives is responding to us. What vehicle we chose to drive, responding to our energy. What relationship we chose to be in and step into, responding to us and our energy. And this is the food for thought. Some of those things are just material objects, being like the house, even the money, just a material object, the desk we chose, the chair we chose, the vehicle we chose. But some of those things are humans. And yes, it still works in the same way. However, They have their own stuff. So we are also mirroring to them. We are their mirrors. So they are responding to us from their perspective. I have to tell you right now, this desk is responding to my energy. It doesn't have its own perspective. Humans have their own perspective. And so they're responding to us with their perspective on the situation. So yes, they chose you as a partner, as a relationship, as a, like let's say teacher, student, boss, worker, spouse or partnership, child, parent, best friends, right? Like siblings. I chose you as a sibling, you chose me as a sibling, and then we choose to be in that relationship, how we choose to create that relationship. But I'm responding to you and you're responding to me. So you have your own perspective on the situation. So I am also your mirror. So whatever I'm doing is mirroring to you as well through your perspective. And that's where I say that I respond to the energy of my environment. But I have to know that my response is my choice as well. I could choose to become aware of what's going on and choose a different response. And that's where the boundaries come in. That's where the energy healing and the energy shifting comes in as well. So if someone is projecting onto me, once I become aware of that, then a new boundary has to be set. And possibly some energy work, such as like cord cutting or energetic removal or something like that. Absolutely, that's a piece of it as well. Can definitely be done. And then setting a boundary or doing the energy work of, why did I take that on in the first place? Why did I allow that in my life in the first place? And then choosing from there, choosing the healing and setting the new boundary. Energetically. We don't do it like that anymore. I don't do it like that anymore. Does that make sense? If I don't respond to you the same way anymore, that gives you zero power to respond to me in the same way. Is that making sense? I'm really trying to get this. And I paused there for a moment going like, what does this have to do with horse healing? And the horses, where are they? Over here, are like, everything. This is the thing. I don't have this all down on paper yet. I don't have my courses created. I don't have all of the details, the fine details. I have the concept is there, and like the brainstorming is there, and it's all just this mismatch of, and you need to get it like detailed down on paper. I need to get it written out, and I need to get it all just kind of, I need to do like this huge brain dump and just start writing. I just need to start writing. The horses are like, just get it out. And so it has everything to do with the horses, stepping into our power, stepping into our leadership, stepping into our boundaries, which is, I feel, a piece of stepping into your power, stepping into your healing, stepping into being with everything that is yours and everything that is not, and understanding it all. Yeah, the horses are like, this is it. This is the healing. The horses mirror to you. The horses communicate with you. The horses hold the space. They hold such a beautiful space to go into and receive these divine messages, like divine communication, that it's like horses are real life spirit guides. So how we can go in and we can like ask our spirit guides questions and like, journal and automatic write and do all that stuff and communicate with the spirit guides, like with the spirit world. It's like horses are real life spirit world. And they are. They are. That being said, I love the work that the horses do. I love it. And that's the space that I love to provide. But I have to say, and I did mention before that when I go out with the horses, it's kind of like the horses, especially during like fall, winter, summer, or spring, sorry. The summer is really the only time that the horses and the cows are not next to each other. But it's like when I go out to that space, it's like, what are the dog, or I only have one dog. So like, what is the dog doing? What are the cats doing? What are the birds doing? What are the cows doing? What are, the other humans in the space doing? What are the horses doing? What are the trees doing? What are the leaves doing? What's the grass doing? It's all just there. It's all just there. And we're out in nature and we're just doing our thing. And we're just being with it. And we're just being with it. In the beingness of it. And we're just finding that divinely guided communication through it all. Okay, horses, what else did you want to bring to the space? I think that's mostly it. I started this before. What I have in my notes is seriously mirroring, which I spoke about, healing, which I spoke about, and connection, communication, which I spoke about. But the healing really happens in this space. It happens with everything that I just talked about. It happens with a connection. It happens with bringing out an intention, something that we're struggling with, a place of stress, a place of worry or anxiety, or just something that is not feeling right. It's not sitting right. It's not going right. And we just need, like, it's a bit of a struggle in our life, and we just need to be with it. We just need to be with it. So this is what we bring out into the beingness of it. And we just be with it, with the horses. And that's where we sit with, and we get the divine connections, and we get into the space of connecting with all of it, And the horses are just there with us. And as I mentioned, they do this through physical, how are they, did they lay down? Did they roll? Are they standing there? Are they standing still? Are they running around? Are they being playful? Are they just holding space? I have had the horses and even cows. Oh my gosh, I have to tell you guys this. I even had a bull. It doesn't matter. Bull, cow, still bovine. I was sitting with the cows and a bull came up and he was just sitting, I don't know, 10, 20 feet away from me, like not too far, but far enough that there was space. No, like, how far would it have been? 110, about 20 feet away, counting fence posts, about 20 feet away. And he was just sitting in this comfortable space, and he was just holding so much space. And the horses do this for me all the time, and cows do it, and they just sit there. And they don't just stare at me, but sort of, is that they just hold this space in a way of, they make that connection with me. And they're just very, very still. And they're just being with and transforming the energy that is going on in the space as I'm moving through my intuitive connections. They just hold the space, and it's beautiful. And that's what the horses wanted to tell me, is that they will just be here to hold the space for you. They will just be here to be the divine connection for you. They will be here to communicate with you. They will be here to help you open up your intuition. They will be with you to help you feel into your soul. They will be with you to help you move through whatever it is that you need to move through. And that's their message. And that was a beautiful message. And so on that note, I'm just going to leave it at that. Again, you can find me on my website, soul2soulhealing.ca. You can find me on all the social medias. I believe they are posted below or they're somewhere. If you go on my website, they're all posted there. You can reach me through email. You can reach me on the social media, Facebook. There's a Facebook group, Soul to Soul Connections. Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm on all of them. I have to say though, Soul to Soul Healing fan page is where I do most of my posts. And I have a blog. You can sign up for my newsletter. And you can catch me on my podcasts. All right. So there you are. That's it. That's how to find me. Stay tuned for more. This, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say this finishes the 6 modalities that I offer. But stay tuned for more because there's more coming. There's more coming. There's so much more to speak about. There's so much more to give you guys. I'm just going to keep rolling these out and I hope you guys just keep digging into them and just getting everything that you can from them. Okay, enjoy your day and enjoy your week, enjoy your month, enjoy your year, and I hope to connect with you guys very, very soon.